It's that time again, GPS to God, and we are glad that you are back with us on this episode today. We're bringing it back. We're going to do another Bible study, a little bit different than what we did with the book of Job. But we'll get into all that in just a hot second. But first, let's welcome you in. Stefano Patterson, Ryan Gotro, Daniel Sanders.
Hello.
You get the three amigos today. We don't need anybody else. And we would have had somebody else if I would have set that up. So I'll go ahead and take the hit on that one. But
got a lot of stuff going on.
It's been a busy week or two. So I think for everybody around here, but including these guys.
For sure.
Stories all around that are not going to make the air. But, sign up for that subscription model and we'll get you in
I was about to
on
say,
the good stuff.
I'll say happy 4th of July, but happy super late 4th of July because it'll be like 2 weeks later.
Yeah. But we hope you had a good one.
Hope you had a good time.
Hope you had a great 2 weeks ago.
But like I said, we're going to get back into a Bible study. Oh, check out the Instagram and mailroom, gpstogod.com if you want to reach out to us, all that stuff. But we're going to hop in. We went super long with the book of Job.
Right.
It was long, though.
It was a long book.
Fairness.
Super long in the length of the book.
I got you.
We're shortening it up a little this time. We're bringing it from the book of James. 2 episodes. You got this week and next week. We're going to wrap it all up in 2 weeks. But here's the deal. It's going to be super fast. We're going to hit a lot of highlights and, of course, give you some great discussion that you could never find anywhere else. But we want you to go check this out for yourself because we're just giving you highlights. This really is like, man, a much longer study. Even though it's a short book, it's only 5 chapters and, really just a couple of pages. Go check it out. It's short, but it is deep. There's a lot to do. You could do like 10 verses a day and stretch it out for a couple of weeks maybe and be deep in it all those couple of weeks or however long that would take. But that's what we're doing today, boys. So
do it.
Let's do it. Let's get started.
Let's go.
But the book of James, I guess we need to, just start at the beginning. I don't know why we would start anywhere else, but
well, so James is the author, right?
James.
Or so we say. Right, because does it specifically say who it is, or do we just assume that because it's the book of James, James is the one that wrote it? Because there's other books that we, that are like that where it's.
I think we can answer that question by reading verse number 1.
I'm just throwing some questions out there. That's it.
James, a servant of God, and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes in dispersion, greetings. So there it is, right there. James is indeed
I knew that,
right in there. I know.
There were several James.
That's a great.
Just throwing some questions, intros.
That was a great setup, Ryan.
It was.
But James is the author. Starting right there in the beginning, the 12 tribes in dispersion. So in this time, of course, Jesus had already been crucified, had already been raised from the dead, but the Christians were being heavily persecuted, and they were scattered out through the world, really, at that time, running, hiding. It was not safe for them to stay in one place, but that's also how they went to make disciples of all nations and spread the word of God. One big grand master plan here, but he says they're in dispersion because they're in hiding. They're being heavily persecuted, murdered, martyred, all that kind of persecution that they were facing.
Another thing that I read was that it was wrote in Jerusalem and it was around 45 to 48 AD.
Some other places may say it was written instead of wrote, but
whatever, y'all.
We're going to cover every.
Take my Greenbrier education over here.
Greenbrier, Tennessee.
Yeah, we're going to speak
Tennessee.
To all people as you like to be spoken to. So
I'm just keeping it real for everyone on here listening. Okay.
Some of them it was
keeping it real.
Some was wrote.
It was wrote or written, depending on where you happen to live.
Mine says it says there were several James, obviously, but there was James, the brother of John, but he died in AD 44. So that would have been too early for him to write this. And then there was James, the son of Alphaeus, but more than likely it says most likely the writer is James, the brother of Jesus.
Bam.
So,
we're bringing the heat.
So
we're just getting started.
So I guess we go with that, I guess.
Sounds great to me. But I mean, that obviously right at the beginning stuck out to me because they're all scattered out throughout, having to leave Jerusalem and go out into the world in different places. And
right.
But that is how the gospel spread at the same time. So it's always cool to tie things together and see how it works in the real world, but how that is, God weaved that plan through so many things. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. It's it's a pretty common Bible verse that a lot of Christians know or have heard, and doesn't really make sense. When you're going through something hard, going through a trial in your life, to count it as joy. But for the people in going through this when this was written, that was a very real thing. All the stuff they were dealing with of being kicked out of their home, basically their town, their city, their country. I mean, they were going through some trials, and for them to say, count it as joy, like everything you're going through right now, God's using that to make you better.
Yeah, and that's something that everybody probably struggles with, is when you're going through tough times, to see the bright side of the things.
In the moment, especially. Yeah,
for sure.
Before you come out on the other side.
Yeah.
But then he says, these trials that you go through, testing your faith, they're going to produce steadfastness, produce perseverance. And, God is He's not done with you. While you're still on earth, He is not done with you. So He is making you better continually throughout your entire life. The word here that was used for testing was a word that silversmiths was used for silversmiths when they were refining silver. So they would put silver in a pot, or whatever the correct technical term is for that. I don't know what that would be. But anyway, they put it in a pot, and they heat it up, melt it down, and the impurities would kind of rise to the top. And so they'd take off the impurities, do it again, heat it up again, until it was totally refined and a pure finished product. And they would do it until they could see their face, see their reflection in the silver. And that's kind of the same with God. When you're going through these trials, He's testing you, He's helping you grow, and He wants to see Himself in us. So
absolutely.
How about that for an analogy?
Looks like you wrote it down.
Check out the notes today, man. I got like 3 pages right here.
Nice.
3.5, yeah.
Well done.
They get a little more spaced out at the back, on the back end there, but they're pretty full on the front side. Did we say we're going to do chapters 1 and I think we said 2 episodes, but
we said 2 episodes, but we didn't specify
1 and 2.
1 and 2. Chapters 1 and 2 today, and then next week we'll hit 3, 4, and 5. But please go in and dive deeper, because this is, man, it's jam packed. But we're just going to hit a couple highlights, like we have been. I was watching a video on this study and getting a couple notes and stuff. Some may call that cheating, but I call it just spreading good ideas.
It was resources.
Resources, there we go. But one of the things said about verse number 4 was, God wants to make us holy, not happy. So we're sometimes going through trials and we don't understand why is all this bad stuff or hard stuff happening to me, and it's not about you being happy or us being happy. God's making us holy, making us more like Him all the time. So I thought that was a pretty cool statement.
Yeah. There's nowhere in there that says you will always be happy.
No. And the other part to that video was he used the analogy of, and this was a Francis Chan talk. I give him credit. Francis Chan, he was saying that, if you take a cake, the end result is a cake, and it's great and it's perfect in its creation. But if you take the baking powder or the eggs or the flour, like, you're not happy with those individual ingredients. They may not be good.
Yeah.
They don't taste good. They don't, you wouldn't choose to eat them, but that's not the finished product. That's the trials and the.
You ever had a cake with one of those ingredients missing? It's not the greatest.
Yeah, I don't know if I've had any. I mean, I've had some stuff maybe where like.
I think there was a time where Dawn and I were cooking something and we forgot to put the eggs in it or something. And it was like, oh, it looks great, but it tastes awful. Something's missing. Sure enough, no eggs.
I think I've had something maybe where like sugar and salt were mixed up, or maybe something where like the baking powder wasn't put in.
Yeah,
and so like it's just it doesn't rise up. Yeah, I think that's what baking powder does. It makes it rise up, right? Anyway, it's pretty important. So put it in there.
Yeah.
You can tell we're professional chefs.
If it's written down on that piece of paper, then you're probably supposed to do it.
That's right. Just like in the Bible, it's written down here.
Exactly.
And we're actually going to talk about some of that here in chapter 2, or maybe the end of chapter 1.
Sorry, you're probably going to get into it. Chapter. It sound like you, Ryan. Verse.
Do what?
Verse. When you started calling, when you were talking about Job, and you kept on saying chapters for verses.
Oh, I did that for.
I just did the same
4
thing.
or 5
I laughed at you during Job, so that's how it goes. It comes back around. Just what he gets in, like I got verses 6 through 8 talking about asking. He wants you to ask, but asking and doubting will bring you nothing.
Yeah, which is kind of. I mean, it gets us all the time. Not all. It gets us something. You know,
sure.
Don't doubt when you're praying. I know I've prayed for stuff. It's like
completely.
I'm asking for this, but I don't believe you can do it or will do it.
Yeah.
Right.
I've lost already. Like before I even started, I lost that.
There's no way I'm getting this, but if you could do that for me.
And I'm not talking about silly things like I don't know if I never have, but I don't remember ever praying for like a sports team to win or not anything like that. But sometimes whatever life event or I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask for this, but I don't think you're going to do it. Like you've already lost. You're doubting God.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he's saying. You can't do that.
Yeah. After all the things that we've said, saw him do and everything, I mean, it's easy for us to go back to like take the Israelites when they were on their way through the wilderness and all that, and with Moses and all the things they had seen, the miracles and through the plagues and all that stuff, and then still doubting them. It's easy for us to read that and be like, oh, how could they after all that they've seen? But then we do the exact same thing.
We do the exact same thing. And we have thousands of years of examples of that. And we still do. You just,
still do the exact
same.
We
have all the stories and we're seeing it in person. We're like still like
all the miracles. And,
all right, let it go.
Yeah, I mean, I know I would do the same thing that like manna from heaven. It's like, oh, this is great. And then after a week, you're like, man, I sure would like a little variety in this. It's like just ungrateful.
Yes.
But I like what it says here that verse 7, we're talking about doubting when you pray and all that kind of stuff. Verse number 8, he is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. when we have doubt when we're praying.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We're going to jump down to verse number 10, talking about don't be deceived. Every good and perfect gift is from above. Another common Bible verse for many Christians. And there's no variation, no shadow. He doesn't change. Sometimes when things are going good for us, it may not be a good place for us to be in because we kind of shift focus away from God. Mm-hmm. And now we're in control because everything's great. I don't need any help. And even though every good and perfect gift is from him, sometimes those trials, we're going through them for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If nothing else, to bring us back to God because we're, I think, what was it last week? We're talking about reconciliation, and final was like, we're selfish people. We're all selfish and have those moments a lot. And
right
when it's everything's good, I got it. I'm in control.
He's just sitting up there shaking his head.
Yeah. All right, get ready to watch what's coming next. I'll be right here when you need me. But then it does tie it up, but that kind of rolls into verse 12. Once we come through those tests, that's when we receive the crown of life. After we're truly following him, putting our faith in him, not having those doubts, that's when we get the crown of life.
Yeah.
And if you love God, you get the reward. But if God made everything super great, super easy all the time for everyone, would it make it easier for people to follow him, or would it make it easier for people not to follow? I think we would ignore him.
I think they would take it for granted.
I agree.
No, it's here. It's handed to me.
Yeah. I think that there wouldn't be nothing like a want to draw nearer to him, because you'd have everything that you wanted. So if you didn't experience like tough times where you had nothing to lean on but him, I think that would pull you further away.
Yeah.
Just
comment
below.
Agreed.
Comment below.
Agreed.
Comment below. But
comment below.
It's like we just said, when things are good, we think we're in control.
Yeah,
we don't have our devotion life or prayer life or whatever might slack off when things are going good, because it's, we're not going through those trials.
Yep.
He kept his notes in the book this time. Remember last time?
Yeah,
he lost his place and couldn't figure out where he was. And
he wasn't sure which page was
page
which.
1, 5, where is it? Oh, yeah, it's in the beginning on the front page.
Yeah. I was actually
you keep in order.
I like those notes better, but I was out of that paper, so I had to use this notebook. One thing a lot of us have heard, probably all of us, the three of us have heard, and a lot of listeners as well, is, some people, when they become a Christian and start to follow Jesus, they think their trials are going to go, life's going to be perfect. Trials go away and problems are gone and all that stuff. But that's not at all true. Like, we're going to continue to experience those trials, but you deal with it in a different way. And I think we learned, verse 13, let no one say when he's tempted, I'm being tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. I should have had Ty Dean here. We had that discussion. I'm going to give him a phone call.
I did think his name did run through my mind when it said that. So interested to see his rebuttal.
Yeah. Dude, we might have to give him a call. Let's just try that right now.
You're not even going to prep him. You're just going to.
No, I'm going straight into it. I'm going to.
What up?
What's going on, sir?
Doing all right?
Nothing much.
Ty, man, thanks for coming on, buddy. Coming on the podcast out of the blue. We're.
Yeah,
did he have a choice? Did he have a choice?
He had the choice to answer the phone.
I know.
But,
thank you for not hanging up.
He can hang up now, yeah. But we're jumping into another study. We're studying the book of James. And there's a verse here that I just want to read you and get your initial thoughts on it.
All right.
All right. We're in James chapter 1, and this is verse 13.
I'm pulling that up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Go ahead and get your resources out. I want you to be prepared here.
I need to be prepared. Oh.
Yes, you do, Ty. Yeah. Yes, you do, Ty.
I just want initial
thoughts. Are you sitting down for this?
You do, Ty.
Are you sitting down for this?
I'm going to have to.
Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one.
He's held on this, Ty, for 2 months.
Yeah, I bet.
Not at all. I was reading this today, and I was like, man, I wish Ty was on tonight so we could talk about this. It's like, we can call him. Initial thoughts. Any thoughts at all? Out of the blue at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, it is. We're getting deep immediately. Maybe I should answer the phone
Not
call.
even hello, how your week's been, how's your 4th of July?
No, yeah. Well, my first initial thoughts is obviously it's the word of God, so it's true, right? God's not going to tempt anyone with evil. He's not going to cause somebody to sin. I'm assuming you're talking about our Job conversation.
Well,
what could have brought that up?
That did ring a bell in my head when I read this.
Yeah. Right.
But this was, to be fair, I don't think any of this was the exact wording that was used for anything. I think it's a little out of context because we were talking about some different elements of what was going on. But it did make me think of you, and I wanted to just kill a couple minutes here on this episode. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any contradiction between what I was saying and what this verse says. I don't think, obviously, it says right here, God doesn't tempt anyone. He doesn't lure anyone into sin. He doesn't entice them to sin. But he does give people tests. We're going through Exodus right now in our D group, and it's all of Exodus is about tests that God gives the Israelites. And they choose either to follow him or to not follow him.
And that's what we're talking about in the book of James as well, going through trials, and trials create perseverance and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah. Oh, and then also you were really caught up with the headings of the chapters.
Yeah.
Chapter 1 of mine is testing of your faith. So, tests right there.
Yeah, that's what it says.
So I think, obviously, I don't think he tempts people. He does not lure people in, but he still gives them tests and choices to make. And I would say he knows the choices that we're going to make. And some would say he has already set out a plan. He knows, like I said, he knows the choice people are going to make. So, you could argue, well, is he causing people to choose? Is he making people choose that? You have to dive into a lot more verses kind of to further this discussion. But yeah, I think just like you said, at 8 p.m. picking up a phone call, I think it's right, and it doesn't tempt people, but I would say he tests people, and that testing leads to a choice, whether that choice results in good or evil.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. We're going to cover a lot of here. And, the rest of chapter 1 and chapter 2. Exactly some of the themes you hit on of being lured away or lured into a decision or not.
For sure.
So,
for sure.
Thanks, man. Thanks for answering the phone. And next time I'll try not to, it'll be for something fun or something.
Yeah.
I won't blindside you next time.
Don't believe that, Todd. Don't believe that, Todd.
Listen, I've been preparing for whenever we do the podcast on it.
Okay.
I have. I've got some. I got a bunch of, going through Exodus and Genesis, especially Exodus. God hardening Pharaoh's heart and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But also there's some. It's all. You're gonna get verses everywhere, and you try not to pull them out of context. But there's some in Psalms that I'm like, oh wow, well there you go. There's God orchestrating things, His sovereignty over there in this verse right here, and it's been good for me too, just to kind of read into what the Bible has to say about this topic. So
yeah,
it's been good.
Well, next week we're going to finish up the book of James, chapter 3 through 5. Come on in and educate everybody again if you want to. If you want to be in the hot seat.
I'm not trying to educate. I am just
well, come on
giving what I'm learning. I'm just talking about what I'm learning, what I see, what I've been reading.
That's all we're doing too.
We'll all learn together. Let's go.
You got an invite if you want to come in next week and tune into next week's episode to see if we get rejected or not. So.
Will the seat be empty?
So. They all know who said no to it.
All right.
Thanks, Ty. We'll talk to you later, man.
See you, man.
Bye.
Yeah.
There you go. Man, Ty, I thought it was going to be a quick 30-second deal. He said, let me go ahead and spit some Bible truth at you. What were we talking about before I rudely
Temptation.
Yeah, trials don't go away when we decide to follow Jesus, and temptation, evil desires and temptation don't leave either. If you're a new Christian, those same desires and temptations you faced before you were a Christian, you're going to face them afterwards.
But I think the difference there, though, is that now you have a support system. Now you have other believers that are going to come along beside you, and they know what you're going through. And I think some people also, they don't want to open up and say those things. But if you open up, you have a support system that can come alongside you and help you. And that's what makes you stronger based on that.
Yeah, and I think verse 13, when it said, let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God. I think that's pretty strong language. Like, don't you dare say God is tempting you. Like,
Right.
God cannot do that. He cannot be around evil, and he would not bring evil on you like that. So don't you dare say, well, God is the one tempting me.
Right.
It's pretty strong language. I think we talked about it in Job about like the tone and stuff we read into.
Right.
These, like we have to kind of remember what was going on when James was writing this. People being kicked out of the country and all this stuff and being martyred, and so there's some emotion, there's some strife. These are real trials they're going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Lori and I talk about it all the time. Just what people that don't have this foundation, what do they lean on during like tough times? Like when you have death or illnesses, I mean, what do they cling to? I mean, it's kind of sad if you think about it that they just cling to just this world or what's in front of them and not have this to.
There's no hope
to go to for encouragement and, like you said, hope, and it's just.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing on the end of the journey.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like
this is it.
It just ends.
Yeah.
Like that is very depressing, really.
Why we should, spread the good news to everyone we can.
And Ty said it too, but this is talking about like we are lured and we're enticed by our own desire. We have sin in our life. Like we have the desire to sin in us.
Yep.
Like even all the way back to the Garden of Eden, they had, Adam and Eve had that desire to sin. God didn't tempt them. God didn't make them eat of that fruit or anything. Like they had that already in them, and it's gotten worse since then. But that desire is in us, and it's that's where we can be lured away. And we have the choice. If it's, you use the fishing analogy, you're the fish and you see the lure. It attracts you, but you still have the choice to bite that lure or turn and swim away.
Yep.
A lot of times we fail to turn and swim away. Is that little Nemo? Just keep swimming.
Just keep.
Yeah, we stopped.
Just keep swimming.
Another thing that Ryan.
That wasn't me that kept on saying that. That was you that kept on saying.
Was it him?
I picked it up.
Was it you? Okay.
I
might have said it a couple times, but I thought it was you that did
I think somebody else started it, but then I picked, I couldn't get away from it, and I kept doing it.
Gotcha. My bad, Ryan. It's you, Daniel.
Yes, I will take that hit for sure.
Verse 15, when it says, then after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and when sin is fully grown, it gives birth to death. Just showing you the path that comes along with that.
That choice again of that, do we take it or not? Francis Chan, the video I was watching, he gave the example of a stillborn baby in these verses that you just read, that like comparing that to sin. So like, when you see a baby, you're pregnant, it's joyful, you're like, man, this is going to be the best thing ever, it's great. And then when it go through all the labor pains and stuff and the baby is here, baby's stillborn, and it turns out to be the most hurtful thing ever in your life.
Yep.
Like that's the same thing for sin. It's all shiny looking and new. This is going to be great. It's going to change my life for the better. And then you do whatever sin it is, and you're like, this is the worst thing ever that I've ever felt. Why would I do that? Why did I do that? Which is a very coarse or graphic description or example, but very much real at the same time, because sin does lead to death, and it takes us away from God, which is, I think that's ultimate death, being apart from God for eternity.
Yeah.
Verse number 19 gets into it a little bit. Know this, my brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. Well, that's one of those Bible verses that I would love to give to somebody. Hey, man, Be slow to speak, slow to anger.
I need to get that tattooed.
But
right here where I can read it all day long.
That's one we don't necessarily want to hear ourselves.
Correct.
It's like that's a great verse for somebody else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not me.
Yeah.
Not stepping on toes or anything, right?
Not at all. Not at all.
But I mean, it's pretty strong language.
Talking about our selfish beings, it's really difficult to do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Without a doubt.
Just to think and that to pause and think, or pause and be quiet before you speak, because
I was trying to think when back in like in elementary school, you learn like a cool phrase that the teachers would tell you. It's like, there's a reason why you have only one mouth but two ears. You know,
Yeah.
you know, you listen twice as long as you speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See, they get it right from the Bible.
Who knew?
Who would have thunk?
But this has some pretty strong language in it as well. For verse 20, the anger of man does not produce the righteousness that God requires.
Wow.
I mean, when you look at what do we get angry about? Stupid stuff.
I was going to say stupid stuff
that does not matter.
Right.
By and large, like a lot of examples. Last week I told a big long story about me and my buddy Shane, and we were angry and hurt, but like the stuff we were angry about, looking back at it now, it's like, well, that was just dumb. Like, how did it go from that stupid little insignificant thing to we couldn't even be in the same room or talk to each other? Like, it's crazy. And then looking, like when you read this verse, that anger does not produce the righteousness God wants or desires. That kind of hits in a whole different way when you say it like that.
Yeah. For sure.
Because it's very direct. You know, there's not much interpretation left on that one.
Yeah.
I have this note. I don't remember exactly what I was going to say, but you know, saving our souls. We have that power to save our souls, to create that righteousness. Now, when I say we have the power to save our soul, in our actions and the things we're doing, we cannot save ourselves.
Right.
That's only through Jesus. But when we accept Jesus, we have the ability to follow him or not, to be an imitator of Christ or not. And yes, we throw out all these excuses of it's hard and life is hard here and there's so many things we have to do with, but it's just excuses. We still have that choice. And we have the ability not to do those things because we're told we're not going to be tempted beyond what we can bear. But man, I feel so bad because so many times I choose that wrong path. You know what I mean?
You're not the only one.
Guilty.
You're not the only one, sir.
Slow down, take things in. Don't express yourself so quickly. There's a sports talk radio here in Nashville I listen to, and they have a saying, one of the shows on there, your Twitter fingers or your social media is always hot. Basically, like your microphone is always on. And so like if you're going out on Twitter or Instagram or something and you're going with your first immediate response in the moment, probably don't want to do that. You probably want to, don't push send, sit on that for a little while, give it the 24-hour rule.
I say at work,
come back and look at it.
At work, we have the email etiquette. You just sit on that for a second and make sure you're not being dumb real quick, sending something out.
Yep. Because once it's out,
it ain't coming back.
It's out.
I mean, they got that recall button, but it don't work that fast. It don't work that fast.
It doesn't. It does not. No. You can try it, but yeah.
Just like sin, you might get lucky every once in a while, but it's going to come back and bite you in the butt at the end.
That one email you really want to recall and you hit the that's the time everyone is sitting on their computer and they read that immediately.
Oh, absolutely.
What does he have to say? Oh, okay.
He'll be getting a call. And then verse number 22, it kind of rolls on that same heavy train right there. Be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. So that, like we said, James is a heavy-hitting book, even though it's short. We're just giving you some highlights, but go back and spend some time in reading this in depth and praying through it, talking to God about it, because...
Don't talk about it, be about it.
That's a good way to say it. deceiving ourselves.
Yeah.
So that sounds silly, but I was thinking about it, getting ready for tonight, and I think we lie better to ourselves than anyone else.
You're gonna lie to yourself to make it more pleasable to yourself. Oh, I can do that. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I think we do it without thinking about it. Like it's
just
automatic.
second nature.
Our brain tricks itself. Our own brain is tricking us a lot of times and making things better than they seem, or we're not as bad as what it seems, or something like that.
Because you're yourself. Sorry, Ron.
No, you're good. I was just like giving yourself motivation that might be even just wrong motivation.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna paint yourself in a bad light.
Right.
Yeah.
To yourself, you're not gonna do that when we all should at times.
Yeah. I mean, we have to be honest with ourselves,
right.
and that's what makes it hard.
Right.
Be doers of the words, not hearers only. If anyone is a hearer of the word, that's kind of a hard word. Hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in the mirror. He looks at himself and goes away and at once forgets what he looks like. So that's the whole deceiving yourself kind of thing, and not giving a true picture of yourself, not being honest with yourself. Kind of like if someone is trying to lose weight or something like that, is like, hey, I want to get back in better shape. Like what we see in the mirror doesn't match when we step on the scale. You're like in the mirror, you're like, man, I'm not that. I didn't put on that much weight. I'm good. I'm pretty good. I'm not as bad as I thought. I'm all right. And then you step on the scale and it's like, this thing's lying, man. I got to get this calibrated. I don't know what's up with it. These batteries are low or what?
Did you buy this on Amazon again? Yeah. You didn't buy the good one.
But it's like we
you got it on the carpet, right? Is that what it is? You got it on the carpet?
Yeah.
Not on the tile?
No. Yeah. No, I think I got it on the tile. I need to go put it on the carpet.
I got it backwards. That's what it is.
Yeah. This floor must be slanted. It's not reading right. Yeah. But somebody got their foot on the back of this thing. I'm the only one in the house. What's happening?
You bought another one.
I mean,
There's a
throw this thing in the trash.
This thing is way off. But I mean, we lie to ourselves better than we lie to other people a lot of times, and it's an unconscious act, which is crazy. I mean, but again, being intentional and taking that honest look at yourself, your actions, your thoughts, you can see the truth. It's just you have to be intentional with it.
Yep.
Which is totally crazy. Those couple verses right there, heavy hitters.
They are.
Spend some time on that one.
Yeah.
Because we're passing it right up now. Let's keep going. But it's not all just doom and gloom. Verse 25, you're going to be blessed when you act on the word of God. The one who looks into perfect law of liberty, and perseveres, being a hearer and a doer, he will be blessed in his doing. So it's not all doom and gloom. If you're honest,
right,
and you work on the things that need to be worked on, you're going to get rewarded. Then it gets back into another little warning here to wrap up chapter 1. Kind of goes into a pure religion. What do the actions? What should we be doing? What does God want to see in our actions?
Right,
caring for widows, caring for kids. The orphans. People that are afflicted, all this stuff. Controlling your tongue. And it doesn't matter what the world says, what the world view is. It's only God's view that counts. And his view does not change. But that's kind of a pure walk with God, a pure religion. Because worldly religion is going to fail. Like it's going to fail you. It's not going to...
without a doubt.
It's not walking the path of God. But favoritism. Anybody play favorites? Anybody ever played favorites? Mm-hmm. Chapter 2 starts off with some favoritism. Gives a great example. Don't show partiality to anyone. And gives a big common example of someone coming to church. One's dressed nice, one's not. You're going to give the one that's dressed nice an honorable seat and praise, but the one who's not dressed nice, you put in the back in the corner and sit here and be quiet kind of deal.
As a society, we base a lot of things off of appearance and
what we think is right and not what we know it's right.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, I mean, verse number 4, it talks about, we're really becoming judges ourselves when we and we judge people, we judge situations, circumstances
every day.
Oh, it happens.
We put values on different things that really are all the same. So like sin, we put values on different sins. This one's not as bad as that one, and it's all the same. It's all sin. But
yeah,
and lots of people don't consider this. The title of mine, like you said, is the sin of favoritism. A lot of people don't consider that a sin.
Yeah, and mine says sin of partiality.
Mm-hmm.
Same word.
What I have,
any kind of distinction-making word you want to put there, it's a sin. Favoritism. We show favoritism all the time.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't matter. The only real distinction should be God and man.
Mm-hmm.
And all men and women, all created the same. We are not different. Clothes, wealth, circumstance, family living situation, like none of that matters.
Right.
We're all on a level playing field.
Yep.
Yeah.
And verses 6 through 9 talk about if you're showing partiality, you are committing a sin, and it's a big sin too. It's not just like this example. It says you have dishonored that poor man that came into the church, and the rich man is the one who oppresses you, the one who takes you to jail, takes you to trial, puts you on trial, but you're trying to honor them, and they just turn around and stab you in the back or treat you worse than you treated them.
I think one of the things that I'm going through right now, and y'all, your kids are older at the moment, so or older, so this. You've already gone through this, and for you, like your kids are just a little older, right on the same age.
Mm-hmm.
So I know my oldest right now, she thinks that we favorite Navy all day, every day, because Navy's only 10 months old, and it's not because we're favoriting to her or going more to her. It's because she has to have that attention. She can't do things on her own.
Yeah.
So that's one of the difficult, that's the first thing that popped in my head when I started reading this morning, was just like, how to explain that to your 6-year-old? Like, I'm not showing favoritism. I'm showing what she has to have, She has to have that attention.
Yeah.
So
That's a great example, though.
It is.
But I think
it is.
I don't think this is true in your case, but some people I could see where that would be a trap for them. Like you do show favoritism to one kid or another, like if it's a boy versus girl or vice versa or something like that. Or
right.
Sometimes personalities.
Personalities.
As well. I mean, that's a big thing. Like if there's one parent that kind of gets along better with one kid versus another parent that might, then that will cause that division and favoritism. I mean, that will follow them all their lives.
And Satan will use anything and everything he can
to
make a fracture in your life. Absolutely. Of anything.
Especially the family, because that's what he doesn't want.
And to get you away from God. And he'll look for that.
Yeah.
Anywhere he can.
It's funny how you said about like rating sins and everything. That verse 10, for whoever keeps the entire law and yet stumbles at one point is guilty of breaking it all. I think we're guilty of well, at least I didn't kill anybody.
Yeah.
I can steal money.
I only stole a pack of gum.
Right. I can steal money from work or steal whatever the case may be, but at least I didn't kill anybody.
Yeah.
So that person that killed somebody, they're worse off than I am.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They're going to pay more than I am. So.
I'm not going to jail for what I did.
Right. Right. So that's.
I think we kind of need to act as if we're going to be judged by God. Yeah. Like if we kind of base our actions of that, and that's maybe a crazy way to say that, but I mean, if we're basing our actions off of I'm going to be accountable for what I do and what I say.
Because we are.
Because we are. But if that's in the forefront of our mind, then maybe we change our actions. And once you change it for long enough, it's second nature. You're not going to be thinking about it like that. But if we're not where we should be, maybe that's how we should think about it. I'm going to be judged by what I do right now.
Right.
Let me think about what I'm going to do. And it goes back to that slow to speak, slow to anger kind of thing, too.
Absolutely.
Slow down, think about what's happening, think about what's important. Easier said than done.
I say think about it before you do it. Don't think about it after, because then you're like, well, too late now. Done did it.
So we're going to kind of wrap this up here with chapter 2, wrap it up for the episode over the next couple minutes here. But this was a note I had written down that, we're dirty and covered in our sin, all the stuff we've been talking about and how we handle it. But, God still saved us. Even though we were dirty, covered in sin, not worth it, from a judgment standpoint.
We were just as important.
He still loved us enough that he saved us from our filth.
Right.
Verse number 14, what good is it, my brothers? This is chapter 2, verse number 14. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? Talking versus doing. That's another touchy one. It's a hard one. It's
it is.
I can tell you everything you need to do. I don't want to do it myself, but I can tell you what to do. Monkey see, monkey don't. I ain't doing it. You do it.
Obviously, I need to know the verse, but maybe y'all know what the verse is. The one about don't talk about the speck in my eye, but until you talk about the rod or the plank in
you're
yours.
talking about the speck in your brother's eye, but you have a plank in your own eye.
Do you know the verse?
I don't know what it is.
I hear it. I say it all the time. I hear it all the time, but never.
Matthew 7:3. Matthew 7:3.
Yep. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? I have Luke 6:41.
Yeah, it's in multiple.
It's in
gospels,
multiple spots. Yeah,
multiple gospels. But yeah,
Matthew 7:3.
Matthew 7:3. Why do you see the speck that's in your brother's eye, but not notice the log that is in your own eye?
Yeah.
How can you say to your brother, "Let me take the speck out of your eye," when there is a log in your eye? You hypocrite! First, take the log out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. That is the words of Jesus being spoken right there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's all throughout the Bible here because
Exactly.
it's a very common struggle that we all deal with from time to time, at least.
Right.
I can see everything on that you're doing wrong. I mean, I'm good. My bathroom scale's broken, but other than that, I'm good. Kind of deal. So, verse number 17 gets back into some more strong language. Faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. So faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. So, you can't just have knowledge of the Bible, be able to quote the Bible, be able to tell other people what they're doing wrong, but you don't go out and live that life by works. Works will not save you, but it is a part of your faith to carry out those works, doing God's plan and helping others, however He is directing you to do that. But you cannot sit on the sidelines because you're useless. Might as well have no knowledge of the Bible.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it goes in verse 19. Even the demons have knowledge and believe in God.
Absolutely. And they shudder. They shudder at, that's, their knowledge of Him is such that, they are trembling.
All right.
We don't have that fear most of the time, that fear of God and being separated from God, knowing His righteousness, that we're not following that. We don't have the same fear that the demons have of God, which is crazy to imagine, crazy to think about, that the demons fear God more than we do.
We don't fear God, but we fear the demons.
Yeah. And then they wrap up the chapter here talking about, when you see a person, verse 24, see a person is justified by works and not just by faith alone. They give a couple big examples here. They're talking about Abraham right before that verse and the faith he had, but he showed his faith by the works he did. And then James is like, don't think it's just these big holy people, the pillars of our faith that you've heard about. Because let me tell you about Rahab the prostitute. She did the exact same thing. She lived out her faith by the work she did. Her and Abraham are the same in that way. So this applies to everybody. Don't get it twisted and think, well, I'm not Abraham. Right. I can't do what he did. Right. Yeah, it's the same for you too, buddy.
Exactly. Yep.
I'm not going to answer this. I don't think we're going to answer this, but we're going to put this out there for the listeners. If you think about it. Where are you in your walk as far as being a doer of the word? Evaluate yourself. If you were to evaluate yourself, think about it. What did you do just this last week? Were you a doer of the word or not? And that's not to accuse or judge anyone, but just a reality check of, we need to have that on our mind. You know, where I'm going to be judged by God for what I'm doing. Well, what am I doing? So how's the last week been for you? If it's been great, keep that on. If it's not been great, let's do something different this week.
Right.
Sure. And we're speaking to us, not to you, but it's for all of us. So. That's it. Sure. That's the first half of James right there. And very fast, very much just hitting some of the highlights and high points. You can spend a week in each chapter and have a full plate. So please go read this, study on it, pray about it, and you're going to come away with a lot of knowledge, a lot of things to work on, a lot of great stuff out of the book of James. We're going to finish it up next week. So
sounds good.
You already know what we're doing next week. Go study up on that so you can follow along with us.
Exactly. Yeah. Verses 3 through, or chapters 3 through 5. That, man, held strong to the end.
There you go. Going over again.
But we'll be back. James chapters 3 through 5 next week.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not going to, be quite as long as the book of Job, but it's what we got. We got some other great topics on the way too, but this one, it's a heavy hitter. We
packed.
We got to go quick, or we'll get bogged down in a whole lot of stuff. But, man, go back and glean some of this for your own life and your own walk, and you will not go wrong. So
absolutely.
We love you. God loves you more. We hope you enjoyed this. We hope you're back again next week. See you then.
Bible verse.
Oh, yeah, man. Fano, saving the day here. So let's before we close out, Fano's going to send us home with a Bible verse. I bet it's from the book of James.
It is from the book of James. One that you wrote that I had circled that I looked at. It's James 1:25. It says, "But the one who looks intently into the perfect law of freedom and perseveres in it, and is not a forgetful hearer, but a doer who works, this person will be blessed in what he does." So just an amazing promise.
Absolutely.
For us. So
we still love you. God still loves you more. Come on back next week. We'll see you then.
I should have waited longer.
No, that was perfect time. That was perfect.
I didn't want to cut you off.
So good, he might not have to edit. Thanks for listening to GPS to God. Make sure you leave a rating or review on whichever app you happen to use. Also find us on YouTube and be sure to subscribe to our channel.